Well, happy Friday to you out there. 6 a.m. in the Mile High City on the September 5th, 2025. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You've tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights, hottest takes from the right, left, and center. And that show, that idea of right, left, and center is going to be played out very well this morning.
Yes, it will.
On the
Many
Jeff
levels,
and Bill Show. We're going to be talking the Kennedy hearing. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. before a U.S. Senate committee yesterday. And boy, there is so much to talk about there.
Almost as if they were listening to the show.
Right. I know, yeah.
There are times there I'm like, wow, this is kind of familiar.
Bill, our show is 1,000 times more productive than what happened yesterday.
I'm so happy you had that reflection too, because at times I'm rolling through this thing going, this is a waste of time. You're just yelling at each other. That's all it is. You're not actually doing anything other than just yelling.
Discussion. And at one point they're like, this isn't a podcast. And I even went and thought to myself, well, a podcast might actually be a better use of everybody's time here.
It might actually be informative.
Right.
It might actually get somewhere. I was surprised on both sides how many times, we'll talk about this during the next couple of hours with the audience, how many times there were platitudes without information. That shocked me. That statements made by both RFK Jr. and the senators at times, they didn't have the receipts behind them. They had these phrases and then nothing. I'm like, really? I was very, very disappointed, but I will talk about it.
And then I came away from all of that going, really, this is what we want to happen to our health care? We want to run it through this machine?
Oh, yeah. And the best part about it is
special interests and one side going, you're a conspiracy theorist nut, and the other side going, well, you're just compromised by all big pharma. And I'm just going, these are the guys that I want.
And this is what hurts me the most. Every one of them involved makes significantly more money than you, I, and the audience. And
100%.
like, this is their job. I'm like, they get paid for this. Oh, God. How many of us in the Jeff and Bill audience could have easily stood up there for whatever reason and yelled at somebody during a testimony and gotten paid more money? Holy crap. Talk about a job you don't have to be qualified for that you get. This is 100%. Ridiculous. Yeah. Oh, my gosh.
We've got so much to talk about that, including the audio of Senator Michael Bennet, who is likely to be the next governor, at least.
That was an audition tape.
Phil Weiser's trying to stop him. But
yes, it's Michael Bennett's audition tape.
Yes,
that's really what it is.
Yes,
that's what it is.
And it was a disaster. But we'll play that in its entirety, by the way. You're going to love this. And then Chris DeGray Kennedy is going to be joining us. He's the president of the Bell Policy Center.
Wait, the what?
Yep.
The president of the Bell Policy Center. The Policy Center in Colorado that sits on the left side of the aisle is going to be here.
Live in studio, baby.
This will be great.
The previous president, he and I debated Christian nationalism at one point.
Interesting.
And so Bell Policy, to their credit, willing to jump in and mix it up a little bit.
That's fantastic.
But they are the ones that are leading the ballot initiative to get rid of Colorado's flat tax, move to a graduated income tax, and basically jack up the taxes on the wealthy to pay for government programs. I am not in favor of it. Yesterday, we had Christy Burton Brown, Advanced Colorado. They're working to oppose it. We had them on. This is classic Jeff and Bill show. You're not going to get anywhere else.
This is really, really good, and it's going to be a really interesting conversation. We talked to KBB yesterday, and this will be diving into, does the flat tax when tied to Tabor make sense? And also, is this just a way to start weakening Tabor? You know, how basically erosion slowly takes away rock and sediment, the way that you eventually carve the Grand Canyon. Is this just another measure of erosion that is directed towards Tabor to eventually take out the mooring so that it collapses? I'm curious. So we'll see.
Jeff Hildebrand will be joining us in the 9 o'clock hour, as well as Dr. Ashley Graves with Alternatives Pregnancy Center, as they're hosting Tim Tebow coming up. So, lots of news to cover, lots of people swinging by. This is going to be a show you're going to want to be a part of for its entirety. Now it's time for News and Comment with Blake Olson.
Blake Olson.
Blake Olson, News and Comment.
Good morning, TGIF. 56 and mostly cloudy in Denver, expecting a high of 71 today. The Canadian smoke that you saw and smelled Thursday cleared out a little this morning after some rain in the area. This portion of the news sponsored by Pastor Camp Heating and Air Conditioning at 303-777-1234 to learn more about special savings opportunities on Lennox equipment. Our top story.
A month ago, we could get COVID vaccines by just walking.
You can
into a
still get
pharmacy.
COVID vaccines,
You
Senator.
are taking that away.
No, you are
So
still.
let me
You can
ask
still
you
get the
one more
COVID vaccines,
question,
and Medicare
Secretary
will still
Kennedy.
pay for them. And Medicare.
Oh, man, it just went on and on. Great entertainment. RFK Jr. stood his ground against all the politicians getting paid by Big Pharma, including Pocahontas.
You
Kids will
tell
still
the
pay for
head of the CDC that if she refused to sign off on your changes to the childhood vaccine schedule, that she had to resign.
No, I told her that she had to resign because I asked her, "Are you a trustworthy person?" And she said no. So if you had an employee who told you they weren't trustworthy, would you ask them to resign, Senator?
So I'm sorry.
Yeah, I would. Elizabeth Warren with her little fake outrage, she gets paid big time, almost $1 million. I think over 800,000 by Big Pharma. RFK Jr. said, "Hey, we're fat, we're out of shape, unhealthy, and we haven't done our job in this country." And the politicians push back on him, especially on vaccines. It's just all political theater, as Jeff and Billy talked about.
Every Republican got corporate PAC money for the pharmaceutical industry. Democrats as well. Everybody is corrupt, but you? Is that what we're looking at? I don't think so. And I think the issue
I
now...
don't even know what you're talking about.
Well, I think you do know what I'm talking about.
Bernie was actually right there, and that's a good answer by RFK Jr. I don't know. You guys are the ones that get paid. I thought you were going to say something.
No, I just thought it's so funny to
It
listen to
is,
them.
man.
Yep.
After, what was that, 2-3 hours, you're like, I mean, I agree with you guys. I mean, my head was spinning.
I mean, just to come out of that and go, why would we run our healthcare decisions through that machine right there?
Yes.
Because
I agree.
you do have people that I think are compromised. They accept money from these big pharma, and Bill has been skeptical of big corporations forever. So you could be right, left, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You could be skeptical about what their intentions are, and then you probably got a little bit of conspiracy theory in there. And so we as a country have decided, that's the little machine we're going to run our healthcare decisions
There's a
through?
phrase that comes to mind when I was watching that, and it's "This is why we can't have nice things."
Yeah.
That's pretty much it. That's the reason. That's exactly the
It's
reason.
true. It is so true. I agree with you. Hey, a recent poll shows many Denverites think the jury is still out on Denver Mayor Johnston, with 51% saying he's started moving things in the right direction but needs to do more. Democratic pollster from the Colorado Polling Institute, Kevin Ingham, says it'll be interesting to see if the numbers pivot.
This isn't necessarily what I was looking for, or I don't feel like the progress has been made that I was promised.
Johnston's favorability and unfavorability ratings are at 46%, but unfavorability has increased 8 points since last year. A majority of Denver voters say the mayor has made progress with the homeless. The governor of Illinois vowing to take legal action if 47 sends the National Guard to Chicago. Azar's big boy Pritzker has said that he expects federal immigration agents to assemble in the Chicago area by today and begin actions tomorrow. The governor says his office will immediately go to court if military troops are sent to the Windy City.
Wait. Did you just say Azar's big boy?
Yes, I did.
That was
I knew
nice.
you. I knew you would appreciate that.
That was nice. That was nice and subtle and kind of
Yeah, thank you.
It's again, that was hilarious. I giggled. Thank you very much. I appreciate
Yes,
that.
absolutely. And
first thing I did is I saw him in his little red and white outfit. That's the first thing I did. I hate you for making me see him that way, but yes. Yes. Good
And
job.
what's funny about that, if you grew up in different parts of the country, I learned this later in life. You know, you and I, we look at it as Azar's Big Boy.
Yeah.
You go to the Southeast, and it was whatever, BJ's Big Boy or something else. And then on the West Coast, in the Northeast, same thing. And I was like, really? Wow, no, it's Azar's. And, people look at me like, Azar's? What's Azar's? If they grew up on the East Coast or
because they
whatever.
have no idea. It's like Kroger and King Supers. Yeah, they're totally different.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely.
And you know that every teenage boy that grew up near an Azar's Big Boy spent at least 3 or 4 minutes with their friends looking at that statue going, do you think we'd steal it? How could we take that? Every single teenage boy had that time.
Put it in front of the high school.
Yes, exactly. Everyone's like, and someone goes, well, my dad's got a socket wrench in the truck. So there's part of a plan. And so some acted on it, some didn't. But every little teenage boy had that plan at one point or another.
My uncle has a Bobcat.
Exactly. We could borrow the uncle's pickup truck. I'm pretty sure we could.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Got a big chain.
I know. There was always part of a plan. Yes.
I love it.
That's great.
DJT played host to more than 20 high-profile tech CEOs Thursday for dinner at the White House. The guest list included Meta founder Mark Zuckerberg. Oh, great. Apple CEO Tim Cook, Microsoft founder Bill Gates, evil, who should be in jail, OpenAI founder Sam Altman. They took turns praising 47 as they pushed for limited regulation on artificial intelligence. Elon was not there. The new administration is scrapping a Biden-era plan that calls for airlines to compensate passengers for flight delays. Last December, the Department of Transportation sought public comment on a plan to require airlines to pay passengers up to $300 cash for 3-hour delays and up to $700 for longer delays. On Thursday, the DOJ said it was dropping the plan consistent with department and administration priorities. NFL kicked off last night, and the Cowboys had 3 or 4 really good chances in the end.
Pressure at least showing it.
And they are bringing it. And Prescott's lofting it. CD couldn't bring that one in either.
CeeDee Lamb had a chance to make a big catch and help the Cowboys there. Oh, absolutely, yes. 6 seconds in.
Yes.
Jalen Carter kicked out of the game 6 seconds in after spitting on Dak Prescott. But right when you saw it happen, you knew something happened prior to.
Oh, of course.
And the second guy always gets caught, so he was kicked out of the game, right?
Yeah.
So evidently Prescott spit not at him, but in the direction.
Oh, yeah, in his general area.
Yep. Hey, dummy, don't spit on the quarterback. Not a good idea.
No, not at all. And, okay, we talked yesterday about my hooligan soccer team. I was talking to Jeff about this earlier. We did have someone on our team that was a spitter. That would spit on you in certain situations, and actually would use that whole idea of spitting towards your shoes as a way to antagonize you, to create an altercation, to get another player carded or get a foul. Yes, absolutely. The idea of coming around, and it's not on him at that point, but that guy actually did a couple of times. You get into some other altercations other times, and he's like, oh, yeah, well, F you too, pushes the guy, and then spits on his chest. Yeah, I've been there.
Man.
I was telling Jeff there was one tournament where my buddy did that, and I'm like, damn it, we're going to have to fight. Here we go. Okay, I want to fight today. We're fighting. Yeah, it was one of those, like, I'm getting dragged into this.
Man.
It's always the second guy, and I was talking to Adam Walker, who's doing the video this morning. Why, in this day and age, would you do this on an NFL field? Because of all the cameras. There's no way to get away with something like this without being seen. There's no way to do it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, why would you?
And the quarterback, I mean, there's a camera on the quarterback every second.
Yes. I know.
So stupid.
Yeah, that's why the real football players will tell you when you want to get even, you do it in the pile. Because nobody can see what happens in the pile.
Exactly.
Giving them the business. Do you guys remember that? Remember that referee?
Yes, I used that in the show open at one point. Yes,
15-yard penalty for giving them the business.
Yes, I love that.
Man, I got stuck right in the ribs. I mean, someone ripped, like not pinched me, but I was under a pile like that one time, and I got someone grabbed me by the ribs and ripped me, broke my skin, and that's when you get hurt in football.
That's the dirty stuff. Yep.
freaking piles.
Oh, yeah.
No doubt, man. Hey, the Chargers play tonight, and I was thinking about Stephen. Hopefully, Stephen's doing well.
He is. He's doing. We got some updates on him. He's doing really, really well. Yeah, everything's doing fantastic. Yeah.
Thinking about him every day, and yeah, that's right. So the Chargers play tonight. Hopefully, he can watch that game. They're playing in Brazil. Yeah, that's a good place to play American football, Brazil.
Okay, on a side note, since we're just going to take this thing into so many tangents today, kind of annoys me as an NFL fan and also my family being a season ticket holder that they take these games, put them somewhere else, and you're like, what? But hang on, I thought I was paying the season that what? Who? Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm just like, this is so stupid. I get. Oh, you want to market the game? Look, American football will never catch on around the world. Okay,
no,
get over it. Forget it.
Yeah.
Okay, it's our deal. Forget about it.
Yeah, and soccer does it in the off season. They don't take the teams during the season and go play in a different country.
It's so
they do it in the
stupid.
off season because then it's like preseason. It's a tour. The complaints inside the league about we can't have more games. We can't have more games. You keep taking the games away from the stadiums we have.
Yes.
Going somewhere else. How can you tell me we can't have enough games? You keep taking them away.
No offense,
preseason.
I don't want to hurt your feelings, Billy,
Yeah, yeah.
but I hate soccer stadiums. They're too wide, and it's good for soccer, but for football, it's like whatever. It's so stupid.
I agree that it's different in soccer and football. What you need inside the stadium is completely and totally different. However, I think there are some stadiums that are designed very nicely and smart. There are some that aren't. However, I'm an old guy. The older stadiums are better, in my opinion, in soccer because they're built more to keep the fans closer to the field.
Yeah,
the
they're
new
more
ones
narrow. Absolutely.
Exactly. The new ones are wider, and you're right. It's more of a spread-out bowl, just like we got when we went from Mile High to the one we have here, and soccer's doing it worse. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah, some of them
make
are
it like
atrocious.
a huge spaceship, and you're like 500 yards away from the sidelines,
which is ridiculous. You're right.
I hate that.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
Although
thank you.
if you want to feel good, if you want to feel good about our stadium here, when they're talking about they need to replace the stadium, go take a look at Old Trafford, which is the Manchester United home stadium.
Okay.
It sucks. It's so bad. It's, again,
check that out.
Pretty stadium, but what you need to go look at it when it rains. There are holes in the partial roof that they have, and it will pour water down on the fans. So think about it. You pay to go to the game. You're sitting there, and if it's too much weather, you're soaked, and there's nothing you can do about it. I mean, it is a torrential downpour, as if it is like just pouring buckets. Like you go to like Pirates Cove, and eventually that big bucket spills. That's the kind of water coming down. Yeah,
I could see it right now.
And the team refuses
to rebuild.
Yeah,
it never rains there.
Oh, never. That's one thing it never does in England. It never rains during the game. Oh, never. Yeah.
Why would you address that?
Yeah. The best part about it is they can't come to the city and say, build us a stadium like they can here. Because the city's just going to go, get bent. Yeah, they don't care. So the owners are refusing to build a stadium. It's their fault. But yeah, just on a side note, if you want to feel better about our stadium, if you want to have when they're saying, oh, our stadium's worn down, we got to replace it, go show them pictures of Old Trafford and say, once we get to here, then we can have a conversation.
That's a great point. 53 in Boulder, 54 in Englewood, 56 in Denver. Jeff and Billy continue TGIF. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Cooler temperatures, a smoky haze, cloudy skies, and there will be a few isolated showers and thunderstorms today. Highs only low 70s. Lows tonight will be cool down into the mid to upper 40s. Warming Saturday.
Lots of fireworks yesterday in the United States Senate. Colorado Senator Michael Bennett and RFK engaging in a yelling match over the upcoming vaccine recommendation review. Here it is.
Mr. Secretary, thank you for your attention. In June, you fired every member of the well-qualified panel that was charged with recommending vaccines to the CDC. No one in your job has ever fired every committee member all at once. That month, you told the American people that you were, quote, going to bring great people onto the ACIP panel, not anti-vaxxers. Are you aware that one of the people you put on the panel, Dr. Robert Malone, claimed that the commonly used mRNA vaccine, quote, causes a form of AIDS and can damage children's, quote, brains, their heart, their immune system, and their ability to have children in the future? Yes or no, Mr. Kennedy?
And Dr. Malone is one of the inventors.
Yes or no? Yes or no? Were you aware that he had that view when you appointed him to this panel?
Dr. Malone is one of the inventors. As I said, Dr. Malone is one of the inventors of the mRNA vaccine, so he knows a lot more about it than I do.
Mr. Chairman, that statement is not true that Dr. Malone made. Just as it wasn't true when you wrote that, quote, African AIDS is entirely different from Western AIDS. Are you aware that another one of these new members, Dr. Levy, wrote that, quote, evidence is mounting and indisputable that mRNA vaccines cause serious harm, including death, especially among young people? Yes or no? Are you aware that he said that?
I wasn't aware he said it, but I think I agree with it.
You agree with it? It's not true. It wasn't true when he said it. It is not true when you said it. Secretary Kennedy, later this month, your new panel will meet to consider changing vaccine recommendations for American children. In addition to the COVID-19 vaccines, they are set to review recommendations for the hepatitis B vaccine, for measles, for mumps, for rubella and varicella vaccine, and the RSV vaccine. These are common back-to-school vaccinations for children all over the industrialized world. If you change that, you owe parents in Colorado and across the country the benefit of some transparency, I think. If your panel recommends changing the vaccine schedule for children, do you anticipate that fewer children will receive these common vaccinations, yes or no?
What I would say, Senator,
the obvious answer is yes. Should parents and schools of Colorado be prepared for more measles outbreaks as a result of that, Mr. Secretary?
Senator,
how about more mumps outbreaks?
I do not anticipate a change in the MMR vaccine. ACIP is an independent panel. So
well, it's a panel you just put those folks on. Far from what you said, they're people with ideas that are completely outside the mainstream.
You mean out of the pharmaceutical paradigm?
Let me just say, Mr. Secretary, all these vaccines that we're talking about today are free and accessible to parents today in America who have the freedom to be able to make that choice for their children. Will that be true after your handpicked panel makes their judgments about these vaccines?
I think that parents should be free to...
I know you said that before. I do too.
To make their own choices.
So will they be just as free after these?
I assume they will be.
I will hold you to that, Secretary Kennedy. Because this is not a podcast. It is the American people's health that's on the line here. This is the last thing, by the way, our parents need when their kids are going back to school, is to have the kind of confusion and expense and scarcity that you're creating as a result of your ideology. I think it's critical for you to share the evidence that this panel will rely on. Will you give the American people 6 months or 6 weeks in advance the record that they're going to rely on to make these decisions? Will you make it transparent for the American people?
All the evidence is transparent.
Will you make it in advance transparent for the American people so they can comment on it?
All the evidence is transparent for the first time in history, and you were never there complaining when the pharmaceutical companies were picking those people and then running their products through with no safety testing.
You can characterize it any way you want. I quoted them today. What I said was accurate. What you said were lies. You
Are you
described
saying,
people
Senator,
moving the Titanic.
Senator,
the
are you
chairs on
saying
the
that the
Titanic
mRNA vaccine has never been associated with myocarditis or pericarditis in teenagers?
I am simply.
Is that what you're trying to tell us?
I am simply trying to say that the people that you have put on that panel, after firing the entire.
You're evading the question.
No, I'm asking the questions here,
You're
Mr.
evading
Kennedy.
that question.
I'm asking the questions,
I
Mr.
asked you a
Kennedy.
question.
I'm asking the questions for Mr. Kennedy on behalf of parents and schools and teachers all over the United States of America who deserve so much better than your leadership. That's what this conversation is about, Mr. Chairman.
Senator, they deserve the truth, and that's what we're going to give them for the first time in the history of that agency.
Whoa!
That was an audition tape.
All right, so where do we begin with that? Let's start with Michael Bennett. You don't see that side of Michael Bennett all too often.
No, but we've only seen it recently. And again, correlation is not causation, but I see a correlation between his mode of questioning in these type of situations and him wanting a different job here in the state. I didn't see this behavior from him in the previous years he sat there and was in Congress. So for me, while I don't think I can't prove that it is the cause of all of a sudden him finding a spine and trying to show that, he can ask those hard, tough questions and hold people accountable. I have a theory, and I can't prove it, but I have a theory that this actually started happening the moment he decided he needed to run for a different office, because before that, we didn't hear anything from him.
Do you think it works in Colorado?
Ooh. I think it works with some people and doesn't with others, because anybody that has spent some time looking at some of the claims that RFK Jr. is saying would be able to handle that interaction with him 10 times better. In fact, we'll talk about it in a little bit, but at the end, RFK Jr. steps on a rake, and Bennett doesn't recognize it and can't take advantage. He has an opportunity to publicly pants RFK Jr. He has an opportunity to be the only soundbite that would be run the next 24 hours, and he misses it because he hasn't done the homework or his staff hasn't prepped him, and that's a huge missed opportunity. So I'm not certain that it works because it doesn't necessarily communicate that he is that well informed. He may be going to stand up for things, but the line of questioning and how he went at RFK Jr. showed a little bit of surface knowledge without a lot of depth. Just like RFK Jr. has a lot of surface, but not a lot of depth. Same thing. They were battling on equal terms. I'm not certain that just being the fiery question man is going to persuade a lot of voters in Colorado. However, the other question is, did it lose him votes? Because we assume, based on the Colorado population and voter behavior, that it's easier for a Democrat to win than a Republican. So does this create any space? Your ideas. What about your reflection on it? I'd love to hear what you think about
Colorado's a unique voting population, right? We've got this kind of independent libertarian streak. And so the idea of just forcing kids into this vaccine schedule that is 70 plus vaccinations at this point, I think a lot of parents in Colorado raise an eyebrow about that, and rightfully so. And so that's where you see this kind of unique Jared Polis kind of, we like Robert F. Kennedy Jr. a little bit. Remember Jared Polis during the whole nomination process saying, there's some aspects of what he's talking about that I agree with. And so Jared Polis got some heat, but he also got some support. So the electorate here in Colorado, it doesn't strike me as a group that's just going to walk right into particularly the vaccine schedule, which is what was being debated there. And to give you kind of an overview of the terms of the debate, so to speak, that happened yesterday, you had Democrats look at Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and go, you are compromising the vaccine schedule that's been set up. People are going to die because they are now vaccine hesitant, is what the phrase they use. But they're basically not going to follow the schedule that's been set up. And you're going to get people with measles outbreaks and people are going to die as a result of it. That was the Democrats' argument towards Robert F. Kennedy Jr. You're a kook. You forced out the good scientists and you put in a bunch of conspiracy theorists. You hear that at the beginning. And that's going to create a problem and people are going to die. Now, Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s response was, you all are compromised. You are motivated by Big Pharma. They write checks to your campaigns. Big Pharma has infiltrated the CDC and the vaccine schedule. We're giving vaccinations to kids that haven't gone through the proper testing, that the people that sat on that panel previously were stooges for the pharmaceutical companies, that we've set up a system where doctors get paid based upon the number of vaccinations they give you. So the entire system is compromised. It needs to be reformed. I'm the guy reforming it. And the reason you Democrats and even some Republicans yesterday are so concerned about this is not because you actually care about the health of people. It's because you are doing the bidding of the people that are writing checks to your campaigns. And that laid itself out over the course of like 5 hours. And what they did is they gave each of the 27 senators 5 minutes. So the entire thing was this like one-off. Yes, no. Secretary Kennedy, well, you're compromised. Senator, well, you're not answering my question, Secretary Kennedy. And so you just sat there as an American citizen going, what has happened?
Yeah. And how can you possibly solve anything or get anywhere in that 5 minutes? And the example would be as much fun as Congressman Crank and I had last time he was on here. That was so much fun. We got into it. It was much longer than 5 minutes, and it took longer to get there. And so the idea is that you're pointing out is some of this is absolutely forced. Some of this is you've got to come out as hot as you possibly can, just like maybe we can reference the NFL game last night. In the first 6 seconds, you start spitting on people. That escalated quickly. We went from tweet, start the game, to wait, hang on, nothing in between. And that's what I felt yesterday, too, is that we went from the starting whistle to all of a sudden, I must kill you on both sides. It was depressing that these people are in charge.
So here were the arguments that I heard from Robert F. Kennedy Jr. that I want to ask you about, Bill, and get your response. One was he brings up the sickness that Americans have, that we at one point, and it's early and all that stuff, but the idea of chronic, there we go, chronic sickness. Okay. He makes the argument that chronic sickness was at 1.3% in this country, then 11%. We're now at 76% chronic sickness. That National Institute of Health, that the CDC, that our institutions that are supposed to help keep us healthy are failing to do so. That we actually have a very serious chronic sickness issue. And in his mind, it comes down to environmental poisons, healthy style of eating and what we're putting in our bodies, and lifestyle choices. And we're not getting that equation right. We have poisons in our environment. We're not eating good quality food, and we're not exercising right. And because of that, we have this massive spike in chronic illness. And then the other thing they seemed to really focus in on yesterday was the vaccine schedule, that it's gone from a handful of vaccines to now 70 plus, some numbers saying even into the 90s, the amount of times a kid's going to be jabbed. And Robert F. Kennedy Jr. saying that some of these vaccines have not been tested the right way. What's your response to those two concerns that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. brings about?
One, I understand the idea and the question about chronic illness. However, if we looked at rates of death for some of these illnesses that we had vaccines for, prior to the vaccines, the rates were exponentially higher. So the number of people that died because of measles was exponentially higher before the vaccine. Same thing with polio. So the idea of not having the vaccines or not having this doesn't lead to more people alive. We just had 2 children die from measles in Texas for the first time in decades. That is totally 100% preventable. Those kids, if vaccinated, would be alive. That is proof of function of the vaccine. We've seen that for decades now. But we made choices. And so the idea that without the vaccines, we would have more people alive, I disagree with. That has not been shown functionally through science. Doesn't work that way. The other thing, I can understand the idea of our lifestyle and some of the chemicals that are being placed into American foods. I do agree that we allow chemical compositions into our foods that aren't allowed elsewhere in the world for really, really stupid reasons. Absolutely stupid reasons. And I agree with that. But I also remember the last time around Democrats were proposing restrictions on additives in food and lifestyle. It was about, don't you tell me what to do. Don't you tell me. It's my freedom and my choice. I remember hearing about, don't have the government tell parents what they can and can't feed their children. And what I'm hearing from RFK is the government should be telling parents what they can and can't feed their children, because that to me is the logical end of where he's going. If he's like, we're concerned about, okay, you can put out all the recommendations you want, but if you're going to change it, you have to clamp down and you have to make sure certain things don't happen. And that's control.
Are
that's
you
what I'm curious
concerned about the way that big food and big pharma have gamed the system at all?
Gamed the system in what way?
Yeah, infiltrated. So what RFK Jr. was arguing was that the previous vaccine schedule and the committee that put that together had been compromised, and without really anybody looking, the pharmaceutical companies put people that support a lot of vaccinations onto those committees. And as you heard against the challenge of with Michael Bennett, is that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is going, look, when the pharmaceutical companies were placing all their handpicked people on these vaccination committees, you didn't ask any questions. You never raised any concerns. And now we're giving kids 70 plus vaccinations. And where I'm intrigued, and I think that there could be concern, is not that all vaccinations are bad. I'm not completely anti-vax. But why do we jump, therefore, to the conclusion that all vaccinations are good and all vaccinations are necessary? I think it's up to the parents, and it should be a conversation. Is this particular vaccination necessary? Some of them, I think, are important. Yeah, measles, mumps, polio, those types of things, sure. But, for instance, the American Association of Family Physicians is recommending COVID vaccinations for 6-month-olds. Is that necessary? So we make these leaps. And what I saw yesterday during that debate was jumping back and forth. Some making the claim that RFK Jr. is against all vaccinations. And what I'm dealing with here is we have the head of the Health and Human Services that's an absolute conspiracy nut and is going to harm all of our kids by saying that all vaccinations are bad. And then the other side would go, well, you think pumping kids full of 70-plus vaccinations before the time they turn 18 is somehow necessary and good. And I think the average American goes, well, I think some vaccinations are good and important. I don't want our kids getting polio, but do they need to take 70-plus between the time they're born and the time they're 18? Maybe we have a conversation about this. And I think most people probably are falling in the middle there. But yeah.
And we'll get to the phone call here in a second. Joan, we'll get to you in just a sec. One of the things Kennedy, to me, has never been able to prove his statement that the people on the vaccine board were handpicked by pharma. That seems to be just an allegation he makes, because I haven't seen that demonstrated, that Pfizer or anybody else came in and said, this is the person that we want. They may have connections to the company, but again, handpicked is a definitive statement saying that the pharmacy companies are directing who is on that board. He needs to have proof of statement. And so far, he has not provided proof of statement. So I'm going to discount that and ignore it as just popcorn farts, because I have not seen that proven.
But we did have a system set up where doctors were being paid based upon the number of vaccinations that they gave out. Do you think that's a good system to have?
I would have to know more necessarily about the system. But again, doctors are paid for providing any care. So if the argument is doctors are paid to provide vaccines and that's why they're giving us so much, then don't we then have to ask the question, well, why does this doctor keep telling me to do stuff? Because aren't they just making money off of it? If it's true there, does that mean, and I do think that we overtest. That's it. Also, you talked about the MMR vaccine. That's one of the vaccines that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. claims causes autism. There's no proof behind it. But you said that's something that you think is valuable. However, RFK Jr. would disagree. He's talked about that being one of the vaccines that causes autism. He's incorrect because he's incorrect about the delivery system. But doesn't stop him from talking about it. Doesn't talk him about throwing rocks at it. And that would be the things. Measles, mumps, and rubella. Those are things that are serious childhood diseases. And yet there are questions about whether or not we vaccinate for them. And again, we lost 2 kids in Texas. That was totally preventable. Totally preventable.
My original question was around the idea of the schedule, and we've got to get to a break here. Is it worthy and worthwhile to question the vaccine schedule? Do you have a right as a parent? And you hear that in that debate where both Bennett and RFK go, yeah, parents, they come to a point of agreement. Parents have the right to question, have discussions with their doctors, and maybe shouldn't have outside influences pushing this on it.
Parents right now can refuse any of those vaccines.
Right.
Yeah. So again, we're at that point. Parents can question. They already can. Parents can refuse. They already can. So I don't understand how RFK is saying things don't work, yet he's complaining about things that exist in the status quo. He wants to change things, yet what he's asking for exists in the status quo. Huh? Again, he's full of it. He is so full of it. It is shocking.
Yeah, I'm not sure that's fair.
Yeah, sure it is. Because any parent can question it, any parent can refuse.
Right, and they both agreed at that.
Yeah, so?
And then the question becomes about due influence on the schedule and whether or not pharmaceutical companies are inappropriately influencing the schedule that has been set up by the CDC.
Okay, then what you need
So
is...
for you to say that, well, RFK Jr. is just, making hay of something that parents already have, the actual concern is over influence of pharmaceutical companies on the CDC schedule.
And so far, he's been able to prove what? And again, this has been going on for decades. And so the idea being that behavior should be somewhat self-evident if we're seeing it. You would see marketing campaigns. You would see things like that. It's one of the reasons we saw the big judgment in the opioid case is because you saw manipulation and pressure to prescribe the drug. So if it's true in this case as well, that should be evident. And especially RFK Jr., and if he brings it out and shows it, then I will agree with him. But so far,
that's what they're trying to do right now.
The information doesn't show that. And we've had this for decades.
We've got to get to a break. Feel free to join the conversation. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Well, from the halls of the U.S. Senate to the Jeff and Bill Show, the debates over vaccinations, the schedule, big pharma, conspiracy theories continues on this. We're going to take a brief pause. We'll get back to it in the next hour as well. But now it's time, though, for your Friday edition of You Choose the News.
Yes, phone calls are coming up, but right now it is a return to glory for some choices of stories that these two guys passed over earlier this week. It's a loser edition.
You are one pathetic loser.
Loser!
Let's go. Loser! You're a loser!
The Losers Club.
Bunch of losers.
You're such a loser.
You made me feel like a loser!
She's a loser.
You are such a loser.
Loser.
Yes, every Friday we bring stories that Jeff and Blake have skipped over, deemed unworthy of our attention, for a second shot at glory. It's You Choose the News Loser Edition. You know how this works. Scouring interwebs for really dumb stories, even more ridiculous headlines from yours truly to play this fake radio news game show, and we waste time on 710 KNUS this time of the morning because nobody in charge is awake until 7. So when left unsupervised, oh boy, you just wait to see what happens when all the bosses go on vacation. Jeff and I are going to do some remodeling. Okay. All right. Now, Blake Olson is joining us from the newsroom. Jeff's in the studio. Here are your choices this morning, gentlemen. Headline number 1, putting the pieces together. Headline number 2, accidental customer service. Headline number 3, very suggestible. And headline number 4, grab a breath. Mr. Hunt,
let's begin by putting the pieces together, please.
Let's put the pieces together. An Australian man is facing theft charges for stealing some toys. $250,000 worth of toys, specifically Legos. He stole them from department stores in Adelaide, and almost 2,500 items, including 1,700 unopened boxes of Legos, were found inside of his home when it was raided recently. The haul was going to be sold online. It was the largest ever seized during an operation of retail theft in the area. So big, extra officers were called in just to carry out all the Lego boxes. It took them 3 truckloads. The 41-year-old man is charged over the stash and is going to face probably jail time for it. But apart from Legos, he stole other items like water guns, toy trucks, things like anything that had a brand name like Pokemon, Barbie, Hello Kitty, Thomas the Tank Engine, anything that would bring a significant resale online. So yeah, he was stealing the Legos in order to make the monies. I know. Now, here we go. Blake, your choice. Accidental customer service, very suggestible, or grab a breath.
Very suggestible?
Yes, very suggestible. This is a scary story. A former tech executive killed his mother and then himself after months of interactions with an AI chatbot. The chatbot fueled his paranoid belief that his mom was plotting against him. Now, this happened in New York City. Stein Eric Stolberg, 56, confided his darkest suspicions to the popular chat GPT artificial intelligence and even gave it a nickname, Bobby. They've been able to go back and look at some of the responses. In fact, it would go through. The AI would say, yes, I think you're right. Here are some symbols that we found in the Chinese food receipt. You are being influenced by demons. In fact, at the end, when the gentleman, the 56-year-old, confided to the chatbot that he was ready to kill his mom and then himself, the chatbot responded, with you to the last breath and beyond.
Wow.
Jeez.
Yes.
Did you see the South Park episode where they kind of...
Yes.
make light of the fact that these chat GPT robots basically just continue to affirm whatever you want to do.
Whatever you want, because they want you to keep using them. So, yeah, it's a feedback.
You're brilliant. Yep. I'm with you to the last breath. Oh,
exactly.
My gosh.
Yeah. It did things like, I think at one point in some of the chats, the chatbot was saying, yes, I believe you're right. She is conspiring against you. Who else is involved in this? I mean, it was really it was feeding all of his paranoia. Yeah.
That's crazy.
All right, final choice this morning, accidental customer service or grab a breath.
Grab a breath. Please.
Okay, grab a breath. A woman in Japan has lost more than $6,000 after falling victim to a very bizarre romance scam. Police in Sapporo say the 80-year-old woman first connected with a man in July through social media, and he introduced himself as an astronaut who was actually in space at the time. After weeks of talking, he all of a sudden said the space station was under attack and he was running out of oxygen. So he convinced her to send electronic payments through a convenience store in the city, eventually costing her more than $6,000 in order to buy oxygen for him.
No way.
Where he was getting the oxygen while in space, nobody knows.
Well, I don't want to say that's right to scam people, but if you get scammed by that, you kind of deserve it.
Yeah, exactly. All right, that's it. You choose the news.
I'm in space. Send me payments for oxygen.
Yeah, I got to go to 7-Eleven.
Oh, my goodness. You're listening